Hey, good morning. We're at Penn's Landing in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And this is the landing spot of William Penn in 1682 when he came to claim his territory out here in Pennsylvania. And it's also the landing point of 65,000 German-speaking immigrants from 1727 to 1775. And 6 of those immigrants belong to us. So let me kind of tell you who we are. This is 100 years after our families founded Plymouth. They came here. So first to arrive is our 6 times great-grandfather, Jacob Bruch. And he's a Lutheran from southwest Germany. He arrived in 1725 as an indentured servant. On September 3rd, 1739, aboard the ship Friendship, we have our 6 times great-grandfather, Balthasar Hesson, and his wife, Susanna Coblentz. They had a daughter, Elizabeth Hesson, who married Peter Coblentz. And October 7th, 1743, aboard the ship Andrew, we have our 6 times great-grandfather, Hans Nicholas Coblentz, and his children, including Peter Coblentz, our 5 times great-grandfather, who married Elizabeth Hesson. On September 15th, 1748, aboard the ship Two Brothers, we have our 7 times great-grandfather, Abraham Keiffer, and his family, including his sons, Nicholas and Theobald, who went on to become our 6 times great-grandparents when their children, Peter and Hannah, married each other. On September 28, 1749, aboard the ship Anne, we have our 6 times great-grandparents, Michael Hassler and Margarita Corman. Michael was 30 years old, he's a weaver, and from disembarking from the Anne, he was marched to the county courthouse where he's forced to pledge allegiance to the king. And the records of his immigration are found on list 139C in the county register. And Michael and Margarita Hassler had a son, Joseph, who became the grandfather of Charlotte Hassler, who married Peter Cornelius Prugh. And finally, in 1752, we have our 6 times great-grandparents, Tobias Finkbeiner and Maria Dorothea. And they arrived with their daughter, Lucia Marie, who married Conrad Bruch up in Trapp, Pennsylvania. And we'll visit Trapp a little later on in our tour. So let's talk about Penn's Landing. So William Penn, he's no stranger to us, by the way, but he's the son of Sir Admiral William Penn. And King Charles II owed Sir Admiral William Penn a lot of money. So to kind of pay off the debt, he gave this province of Pennsylvania to Admiral William's son, William Penn. So William Penn showed up in 1682 to claim his territory. William Penn is the nephew of Elizabeth Penn. And Elizabeth Penn is our 11 times great-grandmother. And we met her last year in Plymouth. Now Elizabeth Penn married William Hammond. He's called William Hammond of London in genealogy circles. And they headed over, William died. So Elizabeth Penn, or Elizabeth Hammond, and her son Benjamin and Elizabeth's daughters, they came out to Boston in 1634 aboard the ship Griffin. And Benjamin Hammond found his way down to Plymouth Colony and then down to Dartmouth to the small towns that spun off as Rochester and Mattapoisett. And down the genealogical tree there was Catherine Hammond, our 4 times great-grandmother, who married Chandler Carver, and they had a daughter, Lucy Ann Carver, who married Thomas J. Neal. And Thomas J. Neal and Lucy Ann Carver had a daughter, Rebecca Anna Neal, and they moved to Chicago, where Anna, we call her Annie, married Edwin Horace Chaxfield. So that's how we were tied back to William Penn of Penn's Landing. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about Jacob and we'll get on with our tour. So Jacob Bruch is the first Prugh to arrive in America, and he arrived in 1725, and he comes from the village of Roth an der Weinstrasse, which is a small agricultural town in southwest Germany. He was a Lutheran, he was poor, he's a peaceful family life, but at the time the Habsburg Catholics were inundating Germany and they were burning down the towns and harassing the people, so he fled and he came to America as an indentured servant. So about 12 long weeks aboard an unknown ship, he arrived on these docks, and the ship's captain auctioned him off to the highest bidder. And the highest bidder happened to be a wealthy Quaker landowner and weaver. So that puts Jacob up in Germantown, about 10 miles to the north of here, where he lived for about 7 years serving off his indenture, and then he married Eva Marguerite Welsh, and they moved on to Trapp, Pennsylvania. So that's our story about Penn's Landing and Jacob Bruch and our 6 ancestors who came over, landed on Penn's Landing, And later on in our tour, we're going to visit Germantown and Trapp, Pennsylvania. That's it. Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.